Yves Tumor is the recording alias for Sean Lee Bowie, who is from Florida but is now working out of Turin. The Wikipedia page, which is the source of my information, doesn't say anything particularly about pronouns except uses they consistently, so I'm going to try and stick to that. So they are known for making experimental music. They've released 5 albums, the first being in 2015. During lockdown, they took up furniture design and upholstery. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the third album under the name Eve Tumor, or I don't know if that should be Eves. And my first encounter with them as an act of any kind, or any kind of encounter. And I would describe this as being experimental electronic, possibly with elements of hip hop in. Maybe that's just because of the electronic element of it that makes me think that. Um, it's certainly none of the places that I've come across, was basically Wikipedia and Acclaimed Music, seem to make any reference to hip hop. So yeah, that's just me then. Um, Not all tracks are the same, but there is a basic sound which then there's kind of variants from. So I'm going to kind of pull apart the components of this basic sound, which is you've got complex drum stuff. Um, Usually, I think drum patterns done on a sequencer. There's sometimes feels like there's several urgent tracks being overlaid at once with the drums. It's quite frantic at times in the drumming. And then the backing behind that is there's some stringy paddy things. Possibly some of them are sampled, and that feels quite dreamy and distant. Produced in a way that deliberately makes it kind of feel very washed out. Sometimes there's some quiet, deep bass in there. And then the singing, which is, I presume, Eve singing, which is almost always in a kind of compressed sounding vocal thing with harmonies. It sounds to me like it's an auto harmony thing that's being used, so an effect to give this harmony. It's got this kind of flat, compressed sounding uh, sound to it, but it's also part of the delivery is. I don't want to use the word flat because that implies tuning, but it's kind of very somewhat unemotive and sounds quite robotic in some ways. Everything in it is kind of somewhat out of kilter. So it's kind of, I'm trying to work out in what way it's different from normal. And I think that just works by pushing everything slightly out of the norm, or maybe it's more than slight. So the whole thing sounds somewhat unusual. There are some real instruments on here. There's at least a trumpet, there's drums, guitar, bass, there's some guest vocals, including James Ferraro, who I reviewed one of his albums a little while ago. And I would say it's actually got some similarities to James Ferraro, or to the album that I listened to by James Ferraro. If you kind of go back and look, you'll see I gave him a really quite a dismal mark, and I'm giving this a better mark than that. It didn't wind me up in the same way that James Ferraro's album did. Um, Enough of that comparison. So as musically, it's definitely pushing the weird boundary, especially in the kind of production of it. The songs, so there are lyrics in the songs. Mostly, it's fairly repetitive stuff, and mostly it seems to be quite banal. Again, I don't know if that's deliberate, but there was one bit of spoken word that I found quite disturbing. Um, yeah, quite weird. So overall, so I'm not a huge fan. I would say it's mildly okay, but I don't think I really got it. I guess, um, given the year, looking at 2018, it has an identity, and I think that's something that's quite hard to achieve these days. So many different things have been done in the name of going a bit weird that there's some creativity in finding a different weird niche, I guess, in there. So, but not really my kind of thing. I think tolerable, but uh, yeah. just about, I would say. So that's what I think. As always, I want to invite you to tell me what you think of this album, especially if you're somebody who really loves it. But from anybody, I want to know your opinion. I love getting other people's take on the stuff that I'm listening to with you. And that's it from me for now.
Scoping your